and I went a little bit too deep, and that was the first time I tore my ACL.
Ugh.
How long it takes for a ligament to properly heal before you can really get back at it, and how long you're on crutches to start off and non-weight bearing and all that stuff. What the heck was that? And then you kind of stop, you walk around a little bit, and you're like, okay, knees over toes, like everybody, right? Like all my PT, every rehab,
Right.
and it's
Do
like,
not put your knees over your toes.
right, like so much pain, screamed out. People can go and actually be coached like in person.
A few. Like, I feel like this area could probably support. I am joined today by Connor Clayton. Connor is an L2 certified coach in Ben Patrick's ATG Athletic Truth Group, aka Knees Over Toes program. So, Connor, I'm very happy to be talking with you today.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. So I'd love to go back to the beginning of your journey. Where did you grow up, and what kind of athletic pursuits were you into as a youngster?
Totally. Majority of my journey took place in Connecticut. Grew up there from when I was around like 10 to 18, so kind of coming of age there. And when I moved to Connecticut, I was a pretty big hockey player. Moved there from Ohio, kind of grew up in Ohio first and then Canada before that. So moved around a bit when I was younger, but really enjoyed hockey.
Did we talk about this when we did our intro call?
Not maybe a little bit. Yeah,
I'm a
we
huge
did. Yeah,
hockey fan.
you were wearing a Canucks shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did this not come up? Oh, wow, that's amazing. Wait, so how long did you play? So from what age to what age?
Oh man, I mean, my parents are Canadian. I am too, but so they got me on skates like as I could walk, pretty much,
Yeah,
right?
two.
So I probably played, from like when I was 2 to probably around 14 or so.
Bantam. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't call
So,
it Bantam anymore, I don't think.
no, yeah, there's like bantam, like peewees, like all the above, right? Like just
That's
going,
awesome,
going
man.
through the
Oh,
ranks
sick.
there. Yeah, that was super fun. But that was when I lived like in Ohio. I kind of grew up there from when I was like 2 to 10 years old, and
Okay.
playing hockey was kind of the thing to do there, travel around. And then I moved to Connecticut. My dad's work kind of took us there, took the family there. And in Connecticut, skiing is a bit more prominent than it is in Ohio.
Yeah.
Still not huge, but you can go up to Vermont where there's some bigger mountains.
Yes.
And so I found some friends there and I started skiing a whole lot more. And I kind of like just fell in love with skiing as a whole. More specifically, like the freestyle element of it, like kind of jumps and rails. I was always kind of like skateboarding as a kid. I loved skate parks. And then when I started skiing, I realized you could do kind of the same thing, but with skis
Yeah.
on. And it was just really fun.
Yeah.
And then so I started doing that more and more. And that kind of like, you can't really, do well in hockey and skiing at the same time. So I kind of broke my parents' hearts at one point and told them I wanted to quit hockey and just go after the skiing thing. Get a hell of a lot more. So yeah, I think they're a little devastated on that one. But skiing from that point on kind of like led me to where I am today.
Yeah.
Honestly, I skied all throughout like my time in Connecticut. When high school came around, I ended up going to Vermont kind of like almost every other weekend and being in the weekend program there and starting to kind of dabble in some competitions in skiing. And then for my junior and senior year of high school, I went to a ski academy in Vermont. So I would
wow.
spend half the year in Connecticut. Like I basically spend like fall and kind of like late spring quarters at high school in Connecticut. And then for winter and early spring for like the middle quarters, I would go up to Vermont and I would go to school there at Mount Snow Academy, where you basically get tutored kind of like one-on-one with your professors throughout the day. And then like you'd have a half day of school and a half day of skiing events essentially. So I was pretty much skiing like 6 days a week while also, doing school at the same time. And then with that, like you're being coached while you're skiing, you're traveling around the country to different competitions, and you're basically trying to make it as like a professional freestyle skier.
That's crazy. Did you ever have any aspirations of going to the X Games or a
Totally.
Red Bull? I'm not. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. That was, I think when I turned like 14 and I kind of like quit hockey and started going after skiing, I think that was like where my mind was headed. Of course you watch the X Games, right? And you're like, oh, I want to do that. Like, yeah. So for sure, that's like every young kid's dream. I feel like whether it's like skiing or skateboarding, like any action sports, like that's kind of like cream of the crop. Obviously there's Olympics there too, but when I was growing up, X Games for sure. Oh yeah. So I was like competing kind of in the circuit where eventually if you get good enough, you would get invited to like X Games or World Cup events and big events like that. And yeah, in my senior year of high school, I was getting up there. I got invited to the Project Gold camp for like the US ski team in Mammoth in the springtime. And that's kind of like, you get invited out there. It's kind of like a bit of a tryout crusade. If you do well enough at that camp, they're going to keep their eyes on you for like being on the US ski team down the road. And then, after I graduated from high school, I was kind of on the verge of what to do really to chase the skiing career thing. A lot of times you kind of need to take a gap year, right? And like actually keep on skiing, because if you go to college, you're kind of going to split your time and it's hard to stay there. But I ended up finding a really small school in Lake Tahoe area called Sierra Nevada College. and they had scholarships for freestyle skiing. It was one of the only schools in the country that I found that actually had that. And so
Wow.
they actually, yeah, they had like a team there. They had a coach. They would help you like, pay for your travel to competitions. Your teachers would work with you to allow you to travel and miss some classes and whatnot. So it was like a really cool flexible arrangement with school. It was a really small school, pretty much smaller than my high school at the end of the day, like my main high school in Simsbury. But yeah, so ended up going there. Freshman year was having a good year, traveled around to a couple different competitions. And then in February, my freshman year there, I did a competition called the Aspen Open, which actually takes place on the same exact course as the X Games. It takes place a couple weeks after the X Games, and it's basically for like men and women that are just below the X Games level that
Yeah.
are, going to go have the same competition on the same course. It's just not quite as competitive,
Yeah.
obviously. But I ended up, usually the way slopestyle works, it's your best of two runs. That's how the scoring takes place. And my first run, I did okay, but I didn't really score what I wanted to, and I wasn't going to make semifinals. And so my second run, I tried to up the trick on the last jump, and I just went like a little bit too big on the jump and landed what we call like back seat, basically like leaning back.
Yeah.
And so you think about that, you land like on the back of your skis, your knees like completely bend fully, right? And I went a little bit too deep, and that was the first time I tore my ACL.
Ugh!
Yeah, so ACL number one right there. I had actually had a friend like tear her ACL earlier in that year, and I heard her scream and knew what it was kind of like. And I,
Yeah.
as soon as I landed that jump and I felt mine tear, and I screamed and hurt like hell, and I was like, right away, I was like, I just did exactly what I watched my friend do a couple months ago.
Jeez, man.
And that was like my first introduction to knee injuries. I'd broken a couple bones before that, but never anything to do with like ligaments or anything, right? And so that was my introduction to that. So did the whole process, MRI and everything, right? And I ended up, like the usual ACL meniscus tear. Got knee surgery 2 weeks later back in like Lake Tahoe area with one of the doctors that works with like the US ski team, and then was on my way to the recovery process. So the long, grueling recovery, as ACL tears always are, with how long it takes for a ligament to properly heal before you can really get back at it, and how long you're on crutches to start off and non-weight bearing and all that stuff. But anyways, kind of got through the rehab, and then I reached at the time. So this was 2015, and at the time, I think the kind of like baseline for rehab was okay. Once you get back to 6 months, you're kind of reevaluated there for like your return to sport.
Yep.
That was the timeline. And so I was going to PT the whole time, right, doing the recovery. And then I got to that 6 month point, and I went back to visit my doctor, looked at my knee. I went through like a return to sport test where they kind of compare your left knee versus your right knee. This was on my right knee. And I remember doing the test, and the like doctor that I was doing the test with was amazed, because after everything was said and done, my results were the exact same on my left knee as my right.
Nice.
And so this like never happens. You're completely back to 100%. Like you're good to go. Like your knee looks great. And I was like, okay, right on. So at that
How old were
point,
you?
how old was I? That was 2015. I would have been around 19 years old
Yeah.
at that time.
So pretty elastic at that age.
Yeah, for sure. Right? So yeah, easy to recover. Like definitely made it easier being a bit younger in that realm. So I got my return to sport test. Yeah, passed that. That was probably in like October of 2015 there. And so that was like right when it was kind of starting to snow again in Tahoe area. So it was pretty perfect timing for me to get back on the skis and kind of start training again for the upcoming year.
Yeah.
And so I had a good couple of months of skiing around Tahoe with the team again, kind of getting back into it. And then fast forward to January, I was training for a competition. I was just at a local mountain called Boreal in Tahoe, just solo lapping for myself. I had a competition the week following. So I was just trying to get my rundown of what I wanted to do at that comp. And I ended up just doing a trick, like a switch 540 on a jump, landing forward. And then as I landed, I just like kind of felt my knee pop funny. Didn't even fall over or anything. I just like felt it funny. And I was like, what the heck was that? And then you kind of stop, you walk around a little bit, and you're like, okay, something feels a little off. And I just remember like going back to the car right after that and being like, Mom, I'm not sure. I called my mom and I was like, hey, I think I might have just torn my ACL again. And she was like, no, you didn't. Like, no way. Like, didn't feel any pain, didn't feel anything.
It didn't hurt like the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I felt the pop, like something's a little weird. So I went back and got an MRI at the same doctor that did my surgery, got the results that, my ACL was gone again in the same knee. So this was like 11 months after I had gotten surgery pretty much. So just under a year is torn again. And this is the part where I was a little bit selfish in my kind of like recovery and knee path per se. Like I'm a sophomore in college at this point. I wasn't really prepared mentally to go through another like 6 months recovery again, surgery, crutches. Like these are my college years, right? Like I wanted to have fun with my friends and keep doing things. And at the time I'd seen a couple of other like inspiring videos of some skiers that were trying to make like the most recent Olympic team that had skied without their ACL. And I kind of watched that and I was like, oh, okay, if they're like skiing without their ACL, I wonder if I could do that. And
What?
yeah, I was a little inspired by that. So after that, like I was never really like plagued with a whole lot of instability with this one. And it was just an ACL tear. So I went back to the gym for like 4 weeks and took a break from skiing. And I just did like a bunch of kind of like functional movements that I had learned just from my PT before and just like getting my knee feeling strong and good again. And then after those 4 weeks, I got back on my skis and kind of skied the rest of the season and like felt pretty good. And there's a thing on skis where it's actually kind of funny because this is like before I found knees over toes and everything, right? But when you're skiing, if you have any injuries or if you don't have an ACL, for instance, if you land backwards on a jump, it's a
Mm,
lot easier on your knees because
yeah.
there's no way that your knee can actually bend, right? Like you're actually just
Yeah.
like landing and you're just like landing forwards a little bit and you're kind of like
Yeah.
staying stable. So that was my trick all year long is I would just do a lot of backwards tricks where I would take off switch or I would like land switch. And I kind of managed to go the rest
Jeez.
of the year. I still did like a couple of competitions. I definitely didn't do as well as like I could have or anything, right? Like I was still trying to
No.
take it a little bit easy where I could. But so I skied that year and then June came around after the season. I went back home to Connecticut to go spend the summer with my parents and knew at that point I needed to get surgery. So went in, found a doctor in Connecticut that had done some work on my arm before and also did knees. And so I talked to him and went back in and yeah, got ACL surgery again. So that would have been June of 2016. It was.
Mm, mhm.
Went in for the surgery. Yeah, thought it was gonna be like a routine ACL surgery, but when he went in, we were doing a hamstring graft at that time, right? So just
Okay.
taking one hamstring. The first one I did was patella graft.
Ah,
And so for this one, he went in, did the ACL, but while doing the ACL, he actually found that my LCL was torn too, which was completely unknown. No one had ever like seen that, or it might have happened when I was, skiing without an ACL, which
yeah.
definitely everything's more susceptible when you don't have an ACL, you're
Jeez.
pushing it, right? So that definitely could have happened. So it turned into like a 7 hour surgery where he had to go source some other ligament like mid surgery to fix my LCL. So he ended up finding a cadaver Achilles and using that for my
Like
ACL.
somewhere in the office?
What's that?
Like somewhere in the office?
I don't exactly know where he found it. I mean, I imagine if you're in the surgery center, they're around,
Oh,
right? Like,
Stacy, we
but
need another ligament.
literally though, I don't know what it was like because I was knocked out. But I know my parents were in the waiting room the whole time, and it was a lot longer than it should have been. They're like, "What's going on?" But
Jeez,
yes, they
man.
did my ACL with the hamstring, and then did my LCL with Achilles cadaver. Yeah, so that ended up being a long kind of rehab recovery process. Like with the extra ligament, I had to be on crutches for like I think 6 or 7 weeks after that, and non-weight bearing for a while. Yeah, and there's obviously some meniscus too, which makes it longer crutch wise. But so did that, recovered again, and this time I made sure to recover, more closer to the 9 month mark instead of that
Mhm.
6 months. And so again, I was doing the PT, everything that I could, and kind of hit that 9 months. Did the return to sport test and passed it again, and again was feeling good. I was never kind of the type to like really be scared of my knee. It's like once I'm kind of like working on it and once I pass the return to sport test, I'm feeling like pretty good and I've got full confidence that it's there again, even after these two tears. And so that was June, right? Getting surgery done. So then I started skiing again, kind of like lightly in around February
February, yeah.
of 2017, I think it
Mhm.
was. At the time with our ski team, we were on this team that was being coached, right? So our coach actually ended up getting a new job at this time, and some weird changes were happening in the school. And basically, the team was left without a coach. And I was one of the experienced skiers with competing and everything on the team, and being that I was relatively injured and trying to take it a bit more easy that year, I just took on the responsibilities of the coach and I became kind of like a student coach for the team. And so I
Yeah.
did that for a couple of months while I was able to ski around with a camera, take some photos and videos of the team, and kind of like, just help them dial in new tricks while being able to like take it easy on my knee for a little while there too. That ended up being a really, really, really good snow year in Tahoe, and a lot of the mountains actually stayed open until like July of that year.
Whoa.
It snowed so much. Yeah, and so Squaw Valley, now called Palisades, Tahoe, they built a really nice like springtime park that was open until July. And so around like April or May, I started skiing harder again and just like feeling good on my knee and doing more tricks and kind of getting back into it. And I skied the rest of the year and felt really confident all through July and everything. And then fast forward to August of that same year, kind of school started up again. And now this was my senior year. It was
Yeah.
my first day of senior year of college. I was playing some kind of intramural frisbee, like ultimate frisbee, and some soccer with just a bunch of buddies down on the field. We played a bunch of frisbee and we switched gears to soccer. I scored a goal in soccer and I did like a little flat ground flip to celebrate. And as soon as I jumped into the flip to kind of pop into it, I just felt pop again. I
Dang it, man.
felt my knee pop, literally did a flip, landed
Okay.
it. Like,
Good. All right. So you
no,
didn't land on your head.
no, didn't land on my head. Landed on the flip. Didn't ever even feel pain. I just felt like a pop again. I was just like, my roommate at the time, like I just like looked at it and started crying, and he knew exactly like what was going on. Everyone else was like, "What's going on?" But my roommate was just like, "I know exactly what you just did. I'm so sorry." And so sure enough, went got an MRI again and found that ACL was torn. Same exact one, the third time now. And so again, this is the start of senior year, and again, I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna go surgery right now because I just don't want to be on crutches and like rehabbing all throughout my senior year of college. And so this time, again, like I didn't really have instability without my ACL. I could kind of do a whole lot of things as long as I just like, I didn't play soccer anymore, didn't play frisbee, wasn't doing anything pivoty, right? But like I could operate day to day just fine. And so I kept on coaching the team all throughout that winter, didn't like compete anymore myself. I was just coaching the team, kind of taking it easy, doing what I can, just trying to enjoy my senior year of college. Yeah. So kind of went through the year, fast forward there, graduated college, lived in Tahoe for a couple more months after that. At that point, I kind of started getting into doing a lot of freelance marketing where there's a lot of like mom and pop businesses all around the Tahoe area that don't really have like a social media or website or like digital ads presence. And I'm just from like growing up and kind of having to brand yourself as a skier to get sponsorships. I kind of learned marketing and I also graduated in marketing in school as well. So did that for a little while. And at the time was also working for the sales rep for K2 skis in the area. K2 was the company that I was sponsored by when I was like trying to compete in skiing.
Nice.
And when I wasn't competing anymore, I just kind of started working within the business side of things. And then that led me to finding a job for a marketing specialist role with Line Skis in Seattle. And I applied, used my connection with the K2 rep I was working for. K2 owned Line Skis, still does.
Oh, okay.
So that was where that kind of connection came into play. And he gave me a good review, had a couple of interviews. And next thing I knew, I was moving up to go start a kind of career in Seattle. And that's where I am still today, living right now. But started that career, still didn't have my ACL right. Was working
Never got it.
still didn't have the ACL. But now I was working a job like in the ski industry, kind of the business side of things. So now instead of like kind of being the guy that was trying to be the professional skier, I was more so like managing a team of professional skiers and giving them gear and working with them and kind of like helping them with content, posting on social for Lion Skis, anything like that. So it was.
Were these all sponsees of Lion Skis?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a fun job, but also tugged at the heartstrings for me big time because in my heart, like I wanted to be on the other end of it, getting the free skis and out there skiing, right? But being injured and not being able to do that, it was a really cool job. At the same time, mentally, it was tough, just with the injuries I'd been through and whatnot. But so I moved up to Seattle in March of 2019. It was. And then I decided, okay, I'm up here. I've got a full-time job now. Let's do this knee surgery thing again. And so September of 2019, I got knee surgery again, I guess, for the third time on that ACL.
You moved here around the same time me and my family did as well. We moved
right
up
on.
in June of 2019, yeah.
It's a crazy time to move here with everything.
Crazy, yeah.
After that. Yeah. But so I got that third ACL surgery, and this time I didn't want to take any more of like my own muscle. So I talked to the doctor, and my Achilles cadaver and my LCL had held pretty well, right? And so we decided to do an Achilles cadaver in my ACL this time as well. But so got that surgery. This time I did like a full 12-month recovery before going back to sports again, like prolonging it as like from my first surgery to now. I've definitely learned that like that is more of the standard now. Like it used to be like 6 months. You're kind of returning sport, you're good to go. But the amount of re-tears you see happen, I think the longer you let it heal and the more you do your
Yeah.
PT and functional movements, the stronger it's going to be. So that's where it was like, okay, like 12 months before I'm really doing anything, right? And it's kind of, I wasn't ever even like skiing hard anymore. I wasn't trying to compete anymore. So yeah, let that heal for about 12 months before I kind of got back on my skis doing it, and was feeling, yeah, like really good after that. And I think that is right around when kind of the ATG kind of came in for me, because
Mm,
I've been doing it. And yeah, this was like, 2020, right? Kind of when COVID was starting. And I think right when like Ben was doing everything online more often now,
yeah.
because everyone was at home and he needed the program where people could do at home. So found the ATG Zero program that he was putting out.
Where did you come across him on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube?
Instagram. There's actually a buddy of mine that is like super into just like functional fitness as well. He said,
Mm.
"Hey, like you seen this guy on Instagram?" And I was like, "No, like what are you talking about?" And yeah, I don't know how many followers he had at the time. It was a big number, but it wasn't like at the millions where he is now, right?
Was this
And
pre Joe Rogan?
that's a good question. I think it might have been like just after it.
Just after? Okay.
That's
Yeah.
probably where my buddy like saw it, because I think he was
That's where he
pretty into
exploded.
Joe Rogan. He was like, "Hey, like I just heard about this guy. Have you seen him?" Yeah. So immediately I was like knees over toes, like everybody, right? Like all my
Yeah.
PT, every rehab
Right.
plan is
Do
like,
not put your knees over your toe.
right. And so I was like, what is this talk? Like, what is this talking about? Like you heal your knees by going
Sacrilege.
over toes. But then the more you look into it and like look at the exercises he's doing and kind of like read some of the research, is like, okay, it makes sense. If you're like strong in that vulnerable position, then the stronger your knees are going to get, as long as you're doing it in like a safe and healthy way,
Yeah.
right? It's like, okay,
Painless, safe. Yeah.
makes sense, right? Yeah. So I bought his book. And this, like, obviously signed up for the app as well, and just kind of like started learning as much as I could a bit there. And yeah, just started going through the zero program and healing my knees as much as I could. Took me a while to like really master the new movements, I think, just because everything's so different. Like I would send in
Yeah. Yeah.
videos and I'd be like, I think I got it. And then they come back with the, you need to change this, this, and this. And be like, oh crap, okay. Like,
That's me with the Peterson step. That thing is kicking my butt right now.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. That's the hard one. You need some like balance properly on that one too.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's a good one. But yeah, so I did that, started doing that program for a while, and that was like when I feel like I got back into like the fitness side of things. Like I've been always doing like the PT growing up, but like I was never like a huge proponent of the gym. Honestly, growing up, I was the type that just wanted to kind of like use it to get my body feeling good, and I just wanted to go play sports and go have fun,
Yeah.
right? But until you like really, I feel like injure yourself or kind of be through, I've gone through something like I had. It's like, okay, like the gym can help you in like so many more ways than just like getting you ready to play sports. It's like getting you ready to like deal with like daily life stressors, everything, right? So
Mhm.
kind of like found that side of it, and yeah, just started kind of getting in a much more like practical routine in terms of actually doing that a whole lot more. Yeah, so going through AGG Zero, getting my knees strong where I could there, and then still like skiing a bit on the side, traveling, right? And then also just like playing a lot of like intramural softball, kickball with some friends around here.
Mhm.
So it was just being active where I could, with going to the gym, playing some sports, and then skiing at the same time. And then kind of fast forwarding to 2022, I think it was. I was in Japan on a ski trip for work. Whenever I'm on like a ski trip for work, I'm around surrounded by a bunch of our like pro athletes, because we're usually like on a content creation trip. And when you're like
Mhm.
that and you see them all doing tricks, it kind of brings back the memories for me. I was like, man, I want to do that, or like that looks pretty fun, right?
Yeah.
And so we're in Japan and we're jumping off like a couple of like avalanche barriers, which build up a lot of snow, and they're basically jumps into powder. And so I ended up like doing a couple of tricks on that during the trip, like feeling pretty good, having fun. And then I did like a 180 off of like a little bump into powder. And I was just like riding up switch, and I didn't see like a little tree that was like 50 yards behind me. And I was riding at switch, and right as I turned around, it was like too late. I literally hit the tree like directly on my knee, like on my bad knee, the right one.
Oh,
Immediately just felt like so much pain, screamed out. I was like, hurt so bad. And I was like right there. I was like, well, I just tore the same ACL again, the fourth.
did you break your patella too?
Yeah, like the tibial plateau is
Yeah. Yeah.
what I did. So it wasn't like a full patella fracture or anything. It
Okay.
was, I think that's where the pain came
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
there. And yeah, it swelled up like hell for the next couple of days. I had to leave the trip early, and I had to like contact our company CFO to see if I could like upgrade to first class in the flight home, because the PT I saw in Japan was worried about like blood clotting if I like kept my
Yeah.
intent the whole time.
Yeah.
So I upgraded to like one of those like bougie little like pods on the flight that were
Nice.
like recline all the way back. So still the
Silver
line.
lining.
I would never been able to do that, right? So that was cool. I like, I guess.
What does a man have to do to get first class around here? Break my
Yeah,
leg?
yeah, pretty much. Exactly, right? Yeah, and I remember I got, like, completely searched getting on the flight as well, like, I got pulled to the side and they searched, like, all throughout the brace I was wearing, I think because I had made a change to my flight and then also just, like, upgraded to first class right away. They're like, "What is this guy doing?"
What is this scam? Yes.
Yeah, so I set off some flags in the system for sure, it was bizarre.
Yeah.
But so I get back to Seattle, obviously go see the same doctor that I'd seen before that did my ACL again here in Seattle.
Hmm.
Got an MRI again, got him to look at everything. And basically the results came back that my ACL was gone again. It's like no surprise there. But the doctor, he was looking at the MRI report and he was like, yeah, your ACL is gone. But by the looks of your MRI, your ACL has actually probably been gone for about 6 months. You didn't just recently tear it. Because he said if you had just recently torn your ACL, you'd see kind of like some residue from the ligament on there, like you'd see a fresh tear. He's like said basically you don't have any like resemblance of an ACL at all. Like your body is pretty much like dissolved
Resorbed.
what was remaining of that ligament because you probably
Oh,
tore it 6 months or more ago.
whoa.
And so now I'm like saying to him, it's like, okay, if that's true, like I've been just living without an ACL, like without even knowing it, you're telling me. And he was like, yeah, that's most likely true.
Oh,
And so I was like, okay, how do I proceed from here? Like, is it worth me getting knee surgery if I already didn't have an ACL and I already didn't know it? And he was like, honestly, that's like a great question. We had a good discussion about it. And it ended up with me just going and getting a second opinion as well and just showing another doctor in Seattle the same MRI report, right? And I was like, is this true? Like, does it look like I would have torn this a couple months ago? And he was like, yeah, like I'm getting near like the opinion there that your ACL was torn like more than 6 months ago. And so I kind of talked to both of these doctors just about like long term. Like I'm 28 right now. So at this time I was 26. And so they're like, yeah, like you are young, but also if you are like not dealing with any instability, your day to day is fine. If you're not trying to get back to high level sports, then you don't need to get ACL surgery. One kind of was of that opinion, and the other one was okay, if you don't get ACL surgery, like your chances of arthritis down the road could also worsen.
okay.
And so there's a bit of a split belief there, which just led me to just be like, again, mentally, I think I was just like, I'm not ready to go through with that recovery again right now. I know for a fact that my knee feels at this time, I guess it was still really swollen, but I was on crutches for a couple of weeks. I healed that like tibial plateau fracture. And I was kind of basically like, okay, like if I feel better after that fracture heals and my knee kind of feels fine again, I'm just going to like, see what I want to do. Maybe I'll hold off on the surgery. And that fracture did heal.
Mm.
I started walking around again, kind of getting back into the ATG movement, going back to the gym,
Hmm.
and never felt like any instability, like ever,
What?
really, unless I'm like playing basketball or soccer and like you're doing quick pivoting motions, right? Like cutting side to side.
Mhm.
But if I'm like I'll go to CrossFit like 3 times a week and I'm doing all the motions there and I'm
Really?
totally fine without my ACL. So what I'm saying here is definitely not a
Yeah,
testament
you're
to
not a
like
prescription.
ACL surgery or anything like that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still like of the thought of like one day I will probably get it done because I do kind of miss playing soccer and I think I do want to play hockey while I'm through my 30s, right? And like, right now I know I'm not going to do that without an ACL, right? So I'm just at the point right now where it's like day to day, I don't need it at the moment. So, and I found that just doing all the functional movements in ATG and doing those religiously as like being able to strengthen all like the kind of key small muscle groups around my knee to make it strong enough to where I don't really need it. So really long-winded story for all my injuries right there. But with all that, it's kind of like where my passion for the ATG side of things came from. I think
Yeah.
because I myself have used this program to really heal my knees and allow myself to do a hell of a lot like without an ACL. And so I've just kind of found that if I'm able to kind of do that, and I've learned so much just by healing my own body, that I have a bunch of friends and buddies and coworkers here now who know me as a knee guy. And anytime they get a knee injury, they ask me things about what they should do to help fix it or get to feel better.
Yeah, man.
And then next thing you know, I saw that ATG had a coaching certification, and I was like, I do love helping others. I used to coach my ski team, right? And it was just so rewarding. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go after that route a little bit and just kind of start, seeing if I can get that certification and kind of seeing where it takes me. And yeah, I've got the level 2 certification. I probably had that for a little over 6 months or so now, I think it is.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks, appreciate it. And yeah, I've just been having fun with it. I've been training a couple clients just like in person in Seattle here throughout the summer. As you know, it's gotten a little gray and rainy in the winters as it does here, right? So I think
Yeah.
finding a spot inside to train is a bit more difficult. I'm actually talking with a spot downtown Seattle right now to kind of
Nice.
start up in-person training again next month. But just helping people with online stuff right now. And then I threw my kind of like marketing role, and I'm really good with like videography, video editing as well. I like creating content. So I just kind of started creating some stuff on social, and I get people DMing me all the time, and I try to help them out kind of as much as I can just with my own experience. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Beautiful, Connor. Thank you for going through that in your entire story. So,
Appreciate
can
it.
you describe today then what services you offer?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, basically, I do a lot of content online on social. I kind of sell just like a small little guide that people can buy, just of like programs that I'd use to heal my own needs, just like a 20-page PDF, just of everything from like exercises to like everything I do from like nutrition, kind of avoiding like inflammatory foods as well, and kind of anything you can help because even on like the mindset side of things, because I think ACL recoveries and knee injuries, like there's so many exercises you can do that are beneficial. But for me, I really found that like the mental side of things, you're making sure you're also like eating right to like help your body heal properly is like crucial as well. So I try to go into a deep dive like that. I've got like a couple of free guides that I kind of give out just to, I want to help people, right? Like if people DM me and ask me some questions, I'll usually give them a guide that like kind of goes over like why backwards walking works or why you should have resistance on doing that, right? Or like what the ATG split squat is and how you can regress that and start doing that yourself, or why Nordics work and why hamstrings are so damn important when it comes to ACL tears and injuries.
Hmm.
So anything like that. And then, yeah, like I said, I do some in-person coaching when the time allows right now and when the weather cooperates as well. But I'm at the point right now where kind of my business side of things is growing. As I think and we'll probably chat about here. I work a full-time marketing job in the ski industry right now still, but I just find that I'm really passionate on the ATG kind of fitness side of things and healing, using it to heal your body. And so I'm still kind of working in terms of what full services I offer and how I want to grow that.
Wonderful. Can you give us the URLs to either all your services or where people can pick up the free guides or the paid guides? And we'll link to those in the description.
For sure. Yeah. TheKneeHaver.com. And,
Perfect.
you'll find access to everything right there.
Everything there. All right, awesome. Tell me a little bit about what you do then as you're in your day job. So we were chatting about this before we came on the air. You're the marketing director for Elevate Outdoor Collective. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I'm the global marketing manager for Lime Skis, which is a company that's under the umbrella of the Elevate Outdoor Collective.
Got it.
Elevate Outdoor Collective encompasses like 12 different brands in the outdoor industry. So you've got like, for instance, Lime Skis, K2 Skis, K2 Snowboards, Ride Snowboards, Backcountry Access, snowshoe brands, cross country ski brand, and a couple of ski boot brands to just name a few. And so that's where kind of as I went over, like I grew up as a really big skier, right? I was always super passionate about that. And then when the ski career didn't work out, I think like going to the business side of skiing was kind of the natural progression for me. So yeah, I work as the marketing manager for Line Skis right now. So I kind of dictate everything we do on the content creation side, everything we do on like the product marketing side, social media, retail, digital marketing, kind of bouncing those channels. We're a pretty small team at the end of the day, so it's wearing a lot of different hats and kind of just doing whatever needs to be done on a day-to-day basis, whether that's like managing the team, signing your contracts, sending out skis to athletes, and obviously creating content to actually help promote and sell the products at the same time too.
That's very cool. Tell me about some of the things that surprised you as you started training people, both on the for the positive and also for the negative.
I think the positive side of it with some people is like how quick that they can get it when they're like functionally shown how to do the movements. Like I
Yeah.
was working with one client and basically he was like a little nervous about how he was doing it at home and wasn't sure if he was doing it correctly. Like more specifically, you're like talking ATG split squat because it is kind of a unique movement, right? It's getting
It
that
is,
full
yeah.
bend. Should you lift your like toes off the ground a little bit, keep your heels down? Like what should your torso be doing? But I think like one of the rewarding things about coaching is it's almost like a bit of a reassurance type thing with some clients where you kind of watch them do it the first time. They're like, I don't know if I'm really doing it right. And you're like, no, you're pretty solid right now. Like, let's just make these small little tweaks. You're going to do it so much better than obviously you make a couple of small little tweaks, kind of like say squeeze your glute a little bit more, like lift your chest up a little bit more. And all of a sudden they have like much more full range of motion. And they're like, holy shit, I really feel that. And it's just like cool and rewarding with that side of things. And even just like small little things, whether it is like, say, the Patrick step, Pearson step, or polygon step, it's like some people don't have like the full kind of like ankle range of motion with when it comes to like the Patrick step and kind of keeping your heel all the way down. So you put them on the slant board and kind of get them doing more of like the pull-up step, and they're all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like I really do feel that around my knee. Like, wow, that's working really well.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's one cool thing about just like the ATG program is there's all these like little tweaks that you can make to kind of like adapt it to somebody's ability level. It makes it really neat. Even when, you know, if someone can't do like the full ATG split squat, like on flat ground, right? Like most people aren't going to be able to do that, but you can find like, I work at like a local park near me a lot of times. That's where I'll bring clients, and they have like a couple of different steps. Usually you're using them for probably box jumps,
Yeah.
but you easily have someone like put their front foot up on that step and get them to do an ATG split squat, like full range of motion. It's just that their foot's more elevated, and they're like, oh, okay, I really feel like that stretch right there. So I think that's one of the most positive things, and then kind of like surprising things, just in terms of like how well that can work in terms of adapting it to anyone's skill level. And I guess adding that onto that more, it's just like, yeah, like how anyone can really do it. Like I went back to Toronto, where my parents live, this summer, and I went to their gym with them, and I walk in the gym right away, and there's a sled right there. And I was like, no way.
Wow, that did not exist several years ago. That's
Yeah, it's
awesome.
funny. I was like, oh, perfect. And like my mom, like she's 60 now and definitely like having some pain and like with her knee a bit and has some arthritis going on. And so I've told her about ATG before, knees over toes, and I try to help her out where I can. But obviously it's kind of hard to do that from Seattle to Toronto at times. But being there in person, I'm like, okay, like look at this sled. Like I'm gonna pull it with like these 4 or 5 plates on it, and then I'm gonna, you know, take the plates off, and you're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna get pretty much the same type of workout, like both cardio and like getting that blood flowing, and like blood flowing specifically to our knees as well. And so I think that's just like, again, going back to like that adaptability side of things, just like you can use a sled and basically get like the same exact workout just at a scaled level. And so I basically had like my mom and my dad both going on the sled, right? Pretty unique.
Awesome.
And then like a week later, my mom texted me videos of both of them saying, hey, am I doing this right? And they're on the sled. And it's just like so cool. It's like anyone can do it. And like you could actually feel the effects like right away to it, because you're like, wow, I just got like a nice quad pump right there by sledding for 10 minutes. That's all it takes. But yeah, and then I'd say
Challenges.
maybe on the negative side, not to say negative, but like,
Just challenges.
yeah, challenges. I think some of it is like you have to start slow, and I think you need to be okay with that. Where I think everyone wants to all of a sudden like lift up the 40-pound dumbbells and like do a full ATG split squat and feel like they're getting like a really good workout and their muscles are getting stronger, right? But like strength exercises aren't just about like building strength, and there's a way to do it correctly so that you can like build strength in like a strong trajectory down the line, right? So I think you see like some folks that are like just, you know, you lead them through like an ATG split squat, kind of like elevating the foot, getting that full stretch. And they're like, okay, like I'm basically just getting a stretch right now. Like this isn't really like a workout for me. And it's like, that's okay. We're building up to like you being able to get that full range of motion. And then as you can work your foot lower down, then we can add a little bit more weight and actually like feel that workout start progressing. But it's kind of like it was for me when I was starting, when I was sending in videos and them kind of like telling me like, no, you need to tweak like these 3 things. I think you find some people that are just really eager to, you know, have a quick fix and be able to do it right away. But especially their unique movements, right? Like Poliquin step isn't just like a half pistol squat where you're hinging at the hips, right? You're actually like moving your hips forward and moving them in line with your ankle. And that's all those little like intricacies. And that can be like the harder part of coaching. And just in terms of people kind of like almost like rewiring their brains a little bit to be like, okay, no, this is okay to like move my knee over my toes and actually like kind of hinge my hips forward rather than like keeping ankle, right? So I think that's probably the challenge, right? It's just if you're not really that familiar with the program and you go in and just try to do these movements, it's like, okay, wait, what am I doing? This feels weird. And then it's like, how is this actually supposed to strengthen my knee? Because it's going to take some time to dial in the movements, and then you can add some weight to it as well. And that's where like the strength portion kind of comes into play.
Yeah. You're teaching your body to embrace the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The vulnerable, and just, like learning something new, like takes time. Like everyone knows how to do a squat, right? But like, this isn't just a squat. This is different. This is a squat and a slant board where you're purposely trying to like push your knees out further a little bit and get them over your toes and generate that blood flow under your knees. And so it's like, teaching like those new little ways. It just takes some time sometimes to make sure the form is right. As if the form's not right and you all of a sudden add weight to it, you're not really helping yourself.
Tell me about your ambitions for your coaching side. Is this a business that you want to grow over time? Is it just kind of, it's a side hobby and I'm not really focusing on it? Like, how do you view it?
It's so for me right now, it's a balancing act just in terms of, okay, I have my full-time job, right? I know I need to spend my time on that. But yeah, the knee haver side of things it's a passion project for me, but I do see it down the road as like something I really want to grow and invest in. Like it's definitely my dream to have like a gym here in Seattle that I can start up and have
Mm,
more like ATG focused and actually have a
yeah.
place to like, train clients, right? Because I get so many people like DMing me questions and I'm just kind of passionate about answering them and like trying to help. And I just think coaching is so rewarding and I like the idea of like, yeah, transitioning that into like something that takes up a lot more of my time and maybe is something like full time down the road, right?
Mhm,
I've
mhm, mhm.
been, you know, in my role with Line Skis for about 6 years now, and I love that job. It's really fun. I get to travel. I get to work with some amazing athletes, but
Sounds
at the same
amazing.
time, yeah, it is a unique role. But like, it's funny because like knee injuries are a huge part of skiing, right? So like, I see that a lot in my role as well. Like, I
Yeah.
see athletes having knee issues, and I'm like, okay, like if I can like learn these movements more and also like help our team at the same time while also like growing this business on the side as well, then it's just like opening myself up to more opportunities down the road.
And talk about an incredible niche too to really be targeting skiers and winter sports athletes.
Totally. Yeah. I think I've kept everything like raw just on like the social media side of things. But I mean, obviously I know skiing, right? So I think as I kind of continue to go, I'll probably niche down a bit into the skiing side.
Mm,
Just being in Seattle too, right? You get so many skiers around here in this
yeah.
area. And that's what I know from growing up in skiing too, right? So yeah, I'd say like business side of things, I'm still like working out the kinks, but like in my mind, I've always kind of had that like entrepreneurial spirit where it's like after I graduated college, I did like freelance marketing for some businesses for a while. And I just love the thought of like helping people. I love, getting my own body stronger. And if I can help other people do the same, it's just super rewarding. And so currently right now, I'm kind of in a bit, not like an existential crisis, but I'm like figuring out myself of like, what do I want to do and how do I want to grow this? And how can I also balance like what I'm currently doing at the same time? So kind
Mhm.
of internal questions, but I would love to continue growing it and be more serious about it down the road.
That's cool. Where have most of your clients come from?
I mean, most of them probably find me on the ATG for coaches map, like around
Okay.
around Seattle. Like I'd say maybe every 2 weeks or so, I kind of get a text or an email right now, maybe every 3 weeks. But like I got one last night, for instance. A guy texted me and said he's had hip surgery back in July and he's kind of looking for a rehab side of things. And earlier this week, I had an email from someone from the ATG site, kind of wondering what my rates were and where I'm located. So that's kind of where most of it comes from right now. It's just cool to see that like actually at work, right? That people are
Yeah.
actually following AGGs, looking at the coach's map, and
That's
then
how I found you.
actually reaching out. Yeah, 100%. Right. And so that's where like in my mind, like I would love to like be able to have like a space, right, where I can actually like have ATG equipment and be like, okay, like these are my rates. This is where I'm going, and this is like where we can start training type of thing.
Mhm.
And so I am talking with someone who owns a gym in downtown Seattle right now, but possibly starting to rent some space there um,
Nice.
in January. But even then, like you're not going to have all the ATG equipment necessarily. So I think we've talked about this. We both know that I think there's like a market for like in big cities like Seattle, right, where to have like an ATG area where people can go and actually get
Yeah.
coached like
A
in
few.
person,
A
right?
few. Like I feel like this area could probably support, I mean, depending on the size. If they're mega, probably could support 10. If they're like CrossFit sized, probably could support 30.
Right.
Like there's enough. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so it's like, you could make that leap and do that, but that's where I'm kind of at the point where it's like I still enjoy my full-time job. I don't really have the capital to go and invest in a spot to kind of start that up right now. But I think, be lying if I wouldn't or didn't say that not always in my mind. I love kind of looking at Redfin, just looking at like spots in the area, right? And be like, oh, this could work. Just, you're dreaming. You're allowed to dream.
Well, let's stay in contact, man, because that's actually. So I work in agricultural private equity right now, but I'm currently searching for a gym to buy. So we'll just stay in touch, man. Haven't located one yet, but I'm talking with brokers and I'm trying to figure out how to do this.
Cool.
I reached out to Ben when I first joined ATG for coaches and was like, "Hey, is there a franchise that you have that I could just like start?"
Yeah.
And not yet, not yet.
Not yet, but if you've listened to
You know,
some of the recent podcasts and whatnot that have come out on the ATG podcast, like they've been talking about that a bit, like just entrepreneurship on like the ATG for coaches side of things, like could be slowly going that way. Like
that'd be
not
awesome. That'd be.
yeah.
I mean, to me, honestly, I was sharing this with Graham Tuttle on my previous recording, which should be coming out sometime in January. That when I first joined ATG for coaches, I really wanted an in-person experience, man. Like
Mhm.
I joined the app, bought two. I bought Zero. I read Zero. I read ATG for Life. I was like, this needs to be the foundation of everything that I do. I have a lot of other interests. I played ice hockey. I ran track and field. I miss sprinting. I miss skating. I sit for a living now, but the most transformative advancements I ever experienced in any sport was always when I was training with other people and was
Mhm.
being led by a knowledgeable coach, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And
100%.
training on your own is great. Like
Yeah.
it's better than nothing, but
Yeah.
I would pay more for a premium experience. I would. And
Yeah.
I know others would too.
Especially if you're around other people that are like learning it and like going through the process with you too. Like I think like for me going to CrossFit, I think that's what makes it so amazing is the community
That
side
is
of
it.
things, right? You get a coach and like part of it is like you're not even really thinking about what workout you're doing when you go to the gym that day. It's written on the board and you're like, okay,
Yep.
I'm just gonna get through this. I'm gonna do
Yeah,
what the coach says and I'm gonna, power through. I'm gonna feel really good afterwards.
that's right.
I think that's the power of like having like the community side of things like that in group classes.
100%.
So 100%. Yeah.
You nailed it. To me,
Yeah.
there's nothing magical about thrusters and pull-ups. It is community.
Oh, especially not thrusters.
but
Good thing those aren't in the
even
ATG
on the
program.
ATG side, like I would say there's I mean, it's unique, but more valuable than learning a split squat is doing it in a group with a knowledgeable coach. Like
Mhm.
you just
You just progress faster and
you
you
just
just feel
progress
better, I
faster.
think.
You do. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
because there's other
adherence is
people that are like
higher. Anyway,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, other people are pushing themselves and you're like, "Okay, I can, inch out one more squat or I can push myself. I can, backward slide for 5 more minutes." Like, yeah, it's just I feel much better.
What are some of the lessons you've learned as a digital marketing on social platforms like Instagram or TikTok, whatever you use? What are some of the lessons you learned to be successful in that domain?
That it takes a lot of kind of trial and error. I think like just because one thing works one day doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work the next day. I think you kind of have to like continually adapt and like keep your content fresh at the same times and also like follow like what is working on like Instagram. When we're talking like line ski side of things, right? You get like a couple lot of content from your athletes and you can just kind of take that and like repost it on your page. But Instagram nowadays is really emphasizing like not stealing content per se and like keeping it super original and unique. And so if you do that, you take like someone else's post and put it on your page, it's not going to perform well. And I think the
Mhm.
same kind of can go for like stealing ideas at the same time. Like if you do like the singer that hook as somebody else, I don't think that's going to work that well. I think you need to make sure you're kind of tweaking it to your own page and your own niche as well. Like you can steal like an artist, but you've got to like make sure things are like unique to you and like, actually talking to your audience as well.
Nice reference there, Austin Kleon.
Yeah, there you go. Love that book.
It's a
Exactly.
good
Well
book.
done.
It's a good book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I think that's one thing, and then I just like, I think giving away a lot of value, I think works really well, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing people always tote, but like, yeah, I try to give away like a free guide that talks about like in depth, like kind of my 3 favorite exercises for like healing, strength, and knees, which is basically like, for me, it's like backward sledding, Nordics, and the ATE split squat,
Yeah.
and that's
That's
for
awesome.
me, right? That's yeah, like
I'd agree with that.
yeah, exactly. And so I just put out like a big guide all about that in terms of, like this is how you could do it. This is how you can regress it. This is why these work. This is why you can do it from home. And just try and make it like as easy as possible. And then I think it works well to like have something to promote on social. Like you can kind of always like make content, but if you're making content like around something and like giving out something or like promoting that piece, then it's kind of like more directed and more targeted rather than just like
Mm,
creating content for the void type of thing. For
mm.
me, like with that, like I have that free guide available. You got to give me your email address just kind of in exchange for it. But then obviously it allows me to build up that newsletter and then like send out like actionable tips, maybe like once every 2 weeks or so about like, this is what you can do this week to help your knees, or this is like maybe some like good foods that you can eat that are anti-inflammatory type of thing or anything like that. Just in terms of like constantly trying to help people like heal their knees, get stronger, kind of like live better, healthier lives all together with that, not to get like too broad with it.
Love it, man. So people can find you on Instagram at the Kneehabber.
Yep. Yeah. Instagram at the Kneehabber. Website is thekneehabber.com. Those are my 2 main platforms right now. I love creating some like longer form YouTube videos, but I really haven't gotten there time wise. So that's something down the road for sure.
Hey, if you ever want to collab, just let me know. I'm
Yeah, I
learning
would
this
love to.
YouTube thing too.
Yeah, it sounds like we need to stay in touch from like either creating a gym content or, maybe them playing some hockey together.
Yeah, man. That'd be sick. That'd be so sick. Lastly, are there any charities or causes that you'd like to promote?
Ooh, I don't know if I have any off the top of my head at the moment, but
All good. All good, man. All right. I know you got a plane to catch. Connor, it's been a pleasure.
yeah, you too, man. Thanks so much for chatting and bringing me on. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. All right. Take care.
All right, have a good one. See ya.